I guess Matt Gaetz wanted to put McCarthy on notice. He wanted him to know that come this week, he is going to call motion to vacate. He's going to get rid of the speaker. And to what he says is that, you know what? If McCarthy ends up as speaker by the end of the week, it's because the Democrats would have owned him. The Democrats would have supported him. But he's a goner. Of course, most of the Democrats are coming out and saying they're not going to give a lifeline to McCarthy. Of course, I think there may be some underhanded deals that McCarthy already got for keeping the government open. That's my hunch, but who am I? But anyway, above and beyond, Jake Tapper did a great thing. He pretty much ridiculed Matt Gaetz, who came into the studio live, but he did it with a hunk of class. I want you to check this out, and then we'll take it out on the other side, because this is important. You have to make these guys exactly who they are. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
Speaker McCarthy argues that he had a bill on Friday that would have put forward less spending than what actually has now become the law for the next 45 days. That would have gone to the Senate. The Senate would have voted for their own bill. And then in a conference committee, there would have been a negotiation. And what would have become the law of the land for the next 45 days would have been less spending than what actually is now the bill. Take a listen to Speaker McCarthy.
Look, I welcome those 21 back in, and we would get a better and more conservative bill if they would simply vote with us.
Their argument is your point about debt and deficit spending, which is not an inaccurate point, was actually harmed by the stunt, by the temper tantrum of the government shutdown.
Well, that argument presupposes that the Senate was going to take up or conference that bill that McCarthy wanted. You already had Schumer speaking on the floor saying that they weren't even going to take that
but
up.
There would have been a conference committee and there would have had to have been a negotiation.
First of all, that's never so what you're saying is that something would have occurred that has never occurred to negotiate a continuing resolution. I have never seen a conference committee in my 7 years in Congress, and I don't think one has occurred since the mid-90s where a continuing resolution has ever been conferenced. So you're asking your viewers to believe something that has never once happened. What has happened when the House has passed a continuing resolution is the Senate merely negotiates the feature of that continuing resolution by sending back what they want to send back, which is what they did. So we were always ending up here. Here's why I want to break the fever. Since the mid-90s, this country has been governed by either continuing resolution or omnibus spending.
And you have voted for continuing resolution in the past.
Well, I'm 5 years sober voting for continuing resolutions, and I should note that during those years, President Trump was growing the economy. But January marked a difference.
Deficit.
Yeah, and you know what?
Growing the deficits as well.
I regret
growing the deficits as well.
But we were growing the economy, and look.
You're talking about the national debt. You were growing. What did he add? $7 trillion, $8 trillion to the national debt?
I did not stand with Donald Trump on all of his spending priorities. I voted against way more than I voted for.
My point is, I don't know what this shutdown did to help the cause.
What shutdown?
The shutdown that almost happened.
Okay, so there wasn't a shutdown. So
the threat of shutdown that you created.
We have to break the fever. We have to move to single subject spending bills.
You broke a fever?
No, we didn't, unfortunately. That's why we have to now move to vacate, because we have to get a system where the House and Senate will negotiate over each of these agencies of government independently. And I understand that in divided government, that means that you have to take into account the views of Senate Democrats, the views of the White House. But what I want to
do? You understand that?
Of course.
Because you're on the floor of the House talking about what Kevin McCarthy needs to do is to allow line item vetoes by people like you.
That's not true.
Line item votes against the salaries of people who are investigating Donald Trump, the salaries of individuals who are offering sweetheart deals to Hunter Biden. That, to me, is not the language of somebody who understands the balance of power in House and the Senate and how all legislation actually functions.
Well, I think I do.
That, to me, is the language of somebody who is looking for clicks and likes and Fox hits, not somebody who actually is trying to reduce the debt.
Matt Gaetz, the little precocious little you know what, but we're too classy to say exactly what he is. We won't do what Donald Trump did in California over the weekend, where he simply went, I think, crazy, pretty crazy. But Matt Gaetz is someone who simply wants to disrupt Congress, and he thinks with his little precocious self and having a small majority in Congress that somehow he can accomplish something, I tell you what, I think this is the week he crashes and burns. And the reason why is sometimes when you have a little bit of power, trying to exert too much of that little power can cost you all. And I think this is exactly where we're heading with Gaetz. He'll keep on being the boisterous person, but he will be that paper tiger going forward. Good job, Jake Tapper.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.